This program also handles vendor EFTs and cash disbursements. Commander also has a feature called Auto Pay, which will automatically generate a check for any vendor we have designated as an auto pay vendor. When you pay by check, you designate some kind of group or batch number. This lets you set up payment to multiple vendors. You can issue multiple checks under the same batch number. You can also handwrite checks and enter them after the fact. If you're doing this, you enter the check number here. Otherwise, this field is used to record a vendor EFT number. Since we are doing neither, we'll just skip this one. If you don't filter by due date, Commander will pull up all outstanding items for this vendor. If you want to pay all this vendor's open items, click the Pay All button. We are going to select them individually this time. And we save our work. It is recommended procedure to review your payment selections prior to proceeding. It's very easy to edit your selections if necessary. You can quickly review your latest entries by clicking here. This screen lets you do any kind of searching and digging out you need to. It is not date restricted in any way. Sometimes it's helpful to see things like this in black and white. It helps the user detect errors. We've selected our vendor and the items we want to pay. We have reviewed our work and it looks okay. Now we actually produce the check. Unprocessed batches of checks display on the left. Enter the next check number. Commander uses only laser checks for hard copy output. You will use laser-compatible check forms. You select the batch you want to process. If there are payments for multiple vendors within a batch, Commander will automatically produce separate checks, each sequentially numbered for each vendor. If this batch contained payment instructions for more than one vendor, you would see the breakout of the vendors on this grid. And here's the check. The stubs information prints on top. And the remittance information is on the bottom. While we're here, let's see how Commander lets you reverse a check. Click here. You can filter by batch number, check date, vendor, or check number. Or you can click the search button without any filtering commands. Commander will bring up a list of all posted checks that have not been reconciled yet through the check register program. Once a check is reconciled, it cannot be reversed through this process you are seeing. This is the check we just produced. In this scenario, this check has been posted, but after doing so, we realized we'd made a mistake. We just want to undo our work and then re-enter it. Click here and click here. And that's it. We have voided that check number, updated our check register, and put any formerly paid items back into this vendor's account. A complete audit trail showing the original entry and the reversing entry has been automatically created. You handle a vendor EFT through the same program that you use to write checks to pay a vendor. You enter the transaction date and then you enter the EFT number, and of course this field is alphanumeric. Your payables can be kept by branch. Select the branch whose payable records this EFT will affect. You can filter the display of open items by date or not. Here we just brought up everything due this vendor. This EFT contains some credit card payables items. You just select the ones the EFT notice designates. Notice the running total at the top right. And now we select the designated invoices. And after we've made all the designated selections, we just click Apply. Now we can look at a report that shows what we just did. If we spot anything wrong, we can just delete this transaction at this point because it hasn't been posted yet. If by chance an error was discovered after this transaction had been posted, you can reverse this entire transaction completely with a couple of clicks. The report screen always defaults to the most current report, but this reporting capability can be used to research past payables activity. So this is the black and white of what we just did, handling a vendor EFT. The process for handling vendor EFTs in Commander is straightforward and very transparent. All the Commander inquiry programs present a common user interface. You can do some filtering to speed your search, but if you have relatively few vendors, you can just click the search button to bring up the entire list of vendors. On the first tab is a summary of this vendor's activity and some further parameters of their setup. And then, as with the accounts receivable inquiry, you can look up personnel who are associated with various vendor offices or terminals. Remember that you can keep pretty much any kind of contact information in Commander: phone and fax numbers, email addresses, website addresses, Twitter addresses, and so on. Commander also gives you a capability for keeping memos and notes relative to any vendor, customer, or product. By pressing F3 key anytime you're in a Commander program, a comment entry screen comes up. You enter your notes and save. Anybody coming along behind you can press F3 to see if there are any notes or special instructions in place for the vendor. These comments are like sticky notes, but unlike sticky notes, they don't get lost. We can look at more activity for this vendor by expanding our viewing selection. This view allows all transactions for this vendor within a designated fiscal period. Whenever you see crossed boxes like this, that means you can expand the view. Do you want to know what you bought on this invoice? Click here. This is a condensed view of the contents of this vendor's invoice. You can view your payment history for this fiscal period. We can see which EFT covered this payment. And the details of the items paid. Commander's Vendor Inquiry lets you look at vendor records in a quick and convenient way. Fuel vendors only will appear here when you click Search. You can refine your search by using the filtering options at the top of the screen. What you see first is a summary of all product pulled from this supplier period to date, and you also see a summary of all gallons dropped at customer accounts. Then you can go a little deeper and inquire by grade of fuel. There's some summary information about how this vendor is set up in Commander. We can look at individual BOLs. So let's take a look at this one. This shows us where it came from. And we can see where it was dropped. The reference number is the customer invoice number. This load was dropped into the bulk plant. The BOL inquiry program is very easy to use and provides valuable information quickly.